Welcome to the Digital Handshake Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jorgensen, and I'm pleased to be here with Dr. Nichole Joslyn from Reno, Nevada. Dr. Joslyn, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I've been looking forward to this podcast for some time, and introducing you, if I will, to our audience. Why don't we take just a few minutes and give us a little bit of background about Dr. Joslyn. How'd you find your way to Reno, Nevada? Where did you train? All of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from Reno, grew up here, spent most of my life here. My dad was in the Navy. So before that, moved around a bit, but then came back to where all my family's from in Reno, Nevada. So I stayed here, completed medical school here, and then I went away for my plastic surgery training. I completed an integrated program at Oregon Health Science University, so OHSU. Then I actually went on for an additional year of fellowship in hand and microvascular surgery at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And then ultimately my husband and I decided we wanted to come back to Reno and start practicing here, which has been great. I've been here in practice for the past 5 years now.
How would you describe the aesthetic patient in Reno? Does it differ, or would you say it's, probably, common fare versus the rest of the country?
I would say it's actually probably common fare. Um, they're patients who want really natural, long-lasting, beautiful results that don't look too overdone. So that's the goal aesthetic for the majority of patients. And of course, we have some that swing on the pendulum one way or the other at times. But for the most part, everyone's just looking for that nice, gorgeous, natural result.
Yeah. I mean, Reno, you're there, near Lake Tahoe. I imagine it's a, quite active, lifestyle community, folks working out, trying to stay in shape, what have you. We're seeing more and more within plastic surgery is sort of this trend of, the athletic woman, if you will, right? She's now lifting weights. She's, doing other types of exercise and activities versus your typical yoga and Pilates. Are these the types of women that are finding their way into your practice?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one subcategory of patients that I see, but especially with that close proximity to Lake Tahoe and the outdoors, we see lots of patients who are climbers or who are avid into fitness, physical fitness, and they want to get back to their day to day activities much more quickly. And they don't want the plastic surgery that they've had performed to interfere with their recovery or to interfere overall with their lifestyle.
Right.
They want to get back to as quick as possible and not be limited by the procedures that they've had done.
Kind of piggyback on that a little bit is, these patients that are really focused on the post-operative recovery process, right? Because, that's an important consideration is the downtime and, how much time am I going to have to take off for work or, managing and being a mom and things of that sort. Do you give your patients specific sort of instructions and sort of like, set expectations there around that sort of post-operative process? Because I feel that, out there in the, digital landscape, there's not a lot of information around the post-operative recovery process versus, talking about the procedure itself or even perhaps, the sort of pre-consult journey, if you will.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I see a patient in consultation, we kind of cover the whole gamut of their aesthetic journey, what they're looking for, doing an exam and evaluation. But a big piece of that consultation is actually setting realistic expectations for both their outcome, but also their recovery journey. And I think you nailed it. It's so important. And patients kind of overlook that. They're like, okay, so when can I go back to work?
Right.
And that's just one piece of their entire recovery. They need to know not only when they can go back to work, but when can they resume their gym membership or their Pilates account? When can they actually sign up for their half marathon again and get back to their day to day? Or when can they pick up their kid? And I think those are little pieces that patients kind of think about going into, but sometimes they're more focused on the end result. So I really think it's important for me to take that time with them and go over that. So that's one piece, just setting the expectation early on of what their recovery is going to look like. And then there's the second piece. So my patients come back for a preoperative appointment, and that is an hour-long appointment where we not only cover their expectations again, medications, all that, but what their downtime is realistically going to look like. And I have general guidelines for each of the types of procedures that I perform. But of course, every patient, there's some variation in that. And so making sure that we're able to fine tune that. So, did I do liposuction on this patient? Are they going to have more swelling than somebody else who maybe doesn't? Did I do a muscle repair? What does it look like when they can go back? Well, can they go back at 6 weeks and it just be normal recovery? Or do I want to start with a slower rehabilitation protocol afterwards? How they start engaging their core muscles again. And I think all of those little pieces really has a profound impact on their overall outcome.
Yeah. So within your practice, are you full service? Are you, breast and body? Are you primarily facial procedures? Share with our audience sort of, what's your approach and philosophy and ethos to plastic surgery, and kind of help explain, if you will, or share the gamut of services that you provide.
Yeah, so I do cover face, breast, and body. And there's several gamuts within that, the facets right there. Face, so facelift, blepharoplasty, just overall skin rejuvenation. And then there's the breast and body patients that you have your mommy makeover, somebody who's had multiple children and their breasts are now sagging, or they feel like they don't have that upper pull fullness anymore. Or I have the belly patients who they've either had pregnancy, so their muscles are separated, or they've had massive weight loss. And so they have all that excess skin. Their clothing's not really fitting right anymore. Their muscle separation, no matter how hard they try, their muscles just still remain rounded. I mean, I had a patient the other day, she had a full six pack. She's so physically fit. She's super active. She's a mountain climber or a rock climber. And you look at her and she's like, I cannot get rid of the roundedness of my abdomen. And she truly has that rectus diastasis, the separation between those two rectus muscles. And she's spent years trying to correct this. And it's still something that bothers her now. So we cover the whole gamut of the cosmetic world of plastic surgery, which is pretty neat.
Well, that's fantastic. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is I understand that you're building a new practice,
Yes.
that you are embarking sort of on this new journey, career journey of sort of stepping out on your own. Share a little bit more about sort of, what motivated that, and sort of your, grand plans, if you will.
So in the world of plastic surgery, there's lots of different ways that you can be employed, you can be part of a private equity group, you can be have your own solo private practice, or you can have several people or members and multidisciplinary sorts of private practices. And I've been lucky enough in my career up to this point to be able to experience a few different ones of those. And while they've all been great, I think what matters the most to me is being able to custom curate an experience for patients. So spending that time beforehand, and then the operative experience, and then also the recovery experience. And I tell my patients this: as much as the role of the surgery matters, the recovery process is also imperative for them. So making sure they have the right tools or techniques to heal faster. For example, mommy makeover, tummy tucks. There's a procedure after called a manual lymphatic drainage, or MLD, and being able to make sure that my patients have access to those in a convenient location for them. So they're able to come in for a post-operative appointment and then go straight to having their MLD and their red light therapy, and adding all of those tools to just make their recovery even more seamless. When you start to talk about the group settings that you're in, I think it's really important because you're talking with everybody about what's important to what pieces matter the most to everybody else. And this way, it's really given me an opportunity to custom curate that experience for my patients. It's been really great.
It's fascinating how obviously the curated experience for the patient is I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself and set yourself apart. Um, but I also am very interested in sort of this progression of your career, right? In
Yeah.
that, you go from being a resident, perhaps fellowship, and then stepping out to joining a group practice, right? And then, sort of getting that courage to say, okay, I can go out on my own, right?
Yeah.
And hang your own shingle with your
Yeah.
name on it. We have a number of younger plastic surgeons that watch our podcast, and we
I
also
love
interview a number of them as part of our guest profiles. And I think it'd be really helpful to kind of walk through the considerations there, right? As you're graduating from your residency and fellowship programs, and you're about to, whether I go and just try to start my own practice, whether I join a private equity group or a large practice, or join as an associate surgeon to, a more established, mature doctor. Like, walk me through
it.
that. Like, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. And I have this conversation with some of my mentees, or plastic surgery residents and fellows who are going through the process right now. How do you differentiate what the best setting is for you? And I wish there was a one size answer fits all. because I think it would make it much easier for them. But understanding what is important to you. Is it important how your practice runs? Or are you more interested in coming to work, having that kind of set up for you, and then being able to go home at the end of the day and separate work? Because once you take on a practice, there are so many additional steps aside from just showing up and performing the procedure or showing up and answering the patient phone calls, having those consultations. There's the outside business runnings that you really have that adds on quite a bit more time to your day to day schedule. And so when I came out of practice, I think as much as I would have loved to have started my own practice then, there's also this leap of faith that you have to have, okay? Because you're employing employees. And back then I didn't quite understand, okay, so if I take vacation, what do the employees do? And I was so fixated on those numbers, like, okay, I'm out for a week. What does that do for the staff? That I lost sight of the overall picture, what I was really, really looking for. And I realized over time it was so important to me to have such a hand in the business aspect so that I could provide those services for my patients. If I wanted to order a piece of equipment because it truly makes a difference, there's studies, there's literature that shows it makes a difference in their recovery and their outcome, then I didn't have to present it to anybody else and justify it. I can look at the numbers myself and say, well, does it make sense from a financial standpoint? And I can buy the piece of equipment if I want it. And so back at the beginning, I really wish I had not focused so much on the logistics of the running of a business, that I had just focused on what was more important to me in the grand scheme of things. And that truly was having a hand in the business runnings and making those decisions for the practice and the patients. And the other piece that comes along with that, of course, is the financial implications or the needing to worry about the numbers and how things look like that. But as scary and as overwhelming as that might sound to patients, it's really not. And you can pay for different services that'll help you navigate those roads and make it much more comfortable for you.
It's crazy to think, right? So you go to school for like 18 years to become a plastic surgeon, and then you spend, almost more than half your time managing a business
Yes.
versus operating or treating patients, right?
Yeah.
Especially when
Yes.
you step out and establish and begin to build your own practice. I got to imagine that's a bit scary. Um, and there's something exciting about it, but it's also creates a little bit of sort of panic and fear. One question I'd like to ask you is, you're building this new practice there in Reno, and congrats again for your decision to do that.
Thank you.
What are going to be the building blocks from a marketing standpoint that you're going to be leaning on heavily to help build up your practice? I got to imagine social media, digital marketing, all of those are going to play a critical role. Speak to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a whole different facet within the business world. And you're kind of just briefly touching on it here, but I'm sure you're well aware. Things like SEO or search engine optimization, getting these sorts of patients to see your social media and it relay the sort of practice that you want to have out there. And I've had quite a bit of experience just in social media as I've transitioned through this. And only recently did I now, with leaving a previous practice, I've had to kind of start back at square one. Okay, what do I really want this to look like? And for me, social media is such a great tool to be able to relay the the experience that I want for my patients when they come to see me. And I want it to be a very relaxing, welcoming, calming environment that feels soothing for them. And I want them to know that I'm with them every step of the way on the experience, throughout their experience and their journey, because I feel like that is one of the reasons that patients really get concerned or confused, or they really start to get worried when they're deciding in the world of plastic surgery. Okay, well, it just becomes very overwhelming for them. But just knowing that I'm there for them every step of the way, I think is huge. And that tends to be how I run my practice in general. My patients have my cell phone number. My patients can reach me. I'm there for them. I want to know when their birthday is. We become a very close knit sort of family at the practice, and that's what I'm trying to relay to them. That being said, I'm able to now create this social media environment or all of my digital marketing that still encompasses that same feeling or that same aesthetic, which is really fun.
Well, really cool. Well, here at Media PSC, we're all about digital marketing, social media, helping plastic surgeons, grow their practices, stay busy. and help convert patients. As part of that is social media is becoming kind of this clickbait culture, right?
It is.
And but hey, that's not beneath us because we're gonna play a little game now. We're gonna switch gears on you, and
Perfect.
we're gonna do a little, plastic surgery. What's hot? What's not with Dr. Joslyn? Okay, are we ready? A little rapid fire.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, fantastic. So I'm just going to throw out kind of an either or to you, and you're just going to let me know which is your sort of preference or what you believe is most popular. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Starting out, deep plane or SMAS facelift.
Oh, I actually I perform both and I believe in both and I think it requires the correct patient selection for each one. But right, I'm going to say deep plane.
Okay, I like that. Hey, I like at the end you're providing sort of the disclaimer, but we're going to land on one that you just feel most passionate about. Okay. Next, are we going under the muscle or over the muscle for breast augmentation?
See, this is the same. I perform both and I talk with the patients about it each time. It really depends on the patient selection. Well, the one thing you're going to know about me, especially after this, is I am not a cookie cutter surgeon. It is not everybody goes below the muscle. Everybody goes in front of the muscle because it matters so much. My rock climbing patients, under the muscle drives them crazy. So even though they're thin, they're willing to tolerate a little bit of rippling on the skin to have that implant not bother them from a functional standpoint. If I have to pick, in front of the muscle.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Botox, still king or Kleenex? The others are just as good.
The others are just as good.
Okay.
They are, and there's some that work better in other patients than oh my gosh, Botox is gonna kill me. It's again the right patient. Some Dysport works better, some Daxi. It's just having the full gamut and the spectrum to treat the right patient.
All right. Regenerative aesthetics, is it the future or is it false hope?
I think it's a key. It's a part of the future, but it's not every. I don't think it's going to be the end all be all, but it's a piece of it, definitely.
Okay. Peptides, breakthrough or is it just another buzzword?
Right now, it's a buzzword because we don't really have the literature that supports it yet, but there's some very promising literature. I think it's going to be a breakthrough.
Okay. Virtual consultations, worth it or just a waste of time?
Worth it. Absolutely.
Okay.
That one I can give you the correct answer from the get go. That is worth it.
All right. Especially you probably a lot of out of town patients, things of that sort. So, plastic surgery marketing, are we going social media or more localized SEO? You got to pick one.
Social media.
Okay. Why?
It just has a broader reach. The local marketing options don't quite capture as big of an audience. Social media really does. And even with, like you were saying, the clickbait, you can really capture a lot more patients in and provide some educational content in there too, which I think it's great. It's not as restricted. Yeah.
All right. This is kind of a hot topic. Preserve, is it novel or nothing new here?
Okay. Do I love Preserve? Yes. I think it's great. Is it novel? No. We've had similar techniques. I mean, back even in training, we would take a saline implant and you would inflate it and that would help with that similar sort of dissection. What is novel is the implants that Motiva has brought out. That is no question without a doubt. Those are novel. So, it's nice to see that. And then Preserve in the right patient, it's incredible. It's a great option.
Just to piggyback on that, are you marketing directly to patients kind of this ballerina Pilates type breast augmentation?
I am not marketing it specifically, but I
Okay.
absolutely provide it for a lot of patients. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
We
right.
have lots of patients coming in asking for it now. You can't not. It's there. It's people are talking about it. They're seeing it. They know they know Dr. Anna Steve. She's up in New people are talking about it. It's out there. You can't ignore it.
Okay. I got two more for you real quickly. Neck lift alone or full facelift?
Full facelift. It's very rarely does a patient qualify for neck lift alone. Rarely. There's my caveat because I've definitely done it and there's certain patients that's what we're doing, but full face.
Okay. Last question. In the fridge at the practice, Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi?
Oh, Coke. Oh, I don't like Diet Coke. Coke Zero.
Well, that was fun, and so just to wrap up here, we also like to just play a little fun game here at the Digital Handshake. Who's your celebrity doppelganger?
Oh gosh.
Who do people say you look like?
That's a great question. I mean, back when I was younger, I got Britney Spears all the time.
I was gonna say Britney Spears. I was gonna say Britney Spears, but I didn't want to. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't get it anymore, and hopefully, and that's yeah, I don't quite get that as often anymore. I've gotten Carrie Underwood intermittently. More recently, I've gotten Carrie Underwood.
I can see that
Yeah,
as well. I can see that as
yeah.
well. Awesome. Fantastic. Well,
Awesome.
it's been so fun having you on the Digital Handshake. I want to thank our sponsors, Media PSC, for making this podcast possible. And we'll see you on our next episode.
Thanks so much for having me, you guys.